something they're scrambling to prevent from happening again. Imtiaz Taib, Al Jazeera, Vancouver.
After the break, it took millions of kilometres away, but its impact is expected here on Earth over the coming hours. We'll show you how the biggest solar flares in years could disrupt global communications. And a full sports bulletin is coming up in a moment, including a look at whether the Formula One season opener will be in Bahrain despite the unrest.
Business Latest is brought to you by Capco in just about everything. Business Latest is brought to you by Capco in just about everything.
Afghanistan is faced with a huge challenge.
Relations have gone really sour between us and our allies.
We have inflicted considerable damage on the enemy.
The people who make international headlines.
Ultimately, the truth will out.
They want to stop this publication of information that embarrasses them.
Make time for Sir David Frost. Frost over the world. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. It's time now for all of the sport. Here's Louise.
Thanks very much. The boss of Formula One, Bernie Ecclestone, says a decision will be made next week on whether the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix can go ahead. The recent unrest in the country has already caused the cancellation of a warm-up event this weekend. Andrew Potter has more.
The annual Formula One Grand Prix is the biggest event in Bahrain's calendar. Now, the growing unrest in the country has put F1's season-opening race event on March 13 in jeopardy. In recent days, scenes like this just a few miles from the race circuit have raised concerns. But the news that the GP2 Asia Series, which is one step below Formula One, has now cancelled its race in the country this weekend is a big blow to organisers. There's a lot at stake for the tiny Gulf state. Bahrain pumps hundreds of millions of dollars into hosting the event as a way of promoting itself. F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone has admitted the sport's high profile makes it a huge target for protesters.
Obviously, Formula One, it is a global sport. It is a big business. And whether that big business can align itself to a nation if that nation does not deal with these protests in a humanitarian fashion and respecting human rights, that is something that will become a question.
In 2 weeks, Formula One teams are scheduled to travel to Bahrain for pre-season testing. Much of their equipment is already on the way, meaning relocating the race to another country would be extremely difficult. Bahrain Grand Prix organisers insist the race will go ahead and say they're committed to making sure the event is safe for teams and visitors.
They're looking at a massive loss, not just from what they've spent this year hosting the race, but also building the facility as a whole. Who knows whether next year Formula One's going to go back there. I'm sure Bernie is using every trick in his book to try and get the race to go ahead. And whether he's threatening them, saying, look, if this doesn't work, then we can't come back here in the future.
The growing crisis is set to be discussed at a Formula One Teams Association meeting on Friday, while the sport's governing body, the FIA, says it's monitoring closely. Andrew Potter, Al Jazeera.
Now to Europa League football and the results of the first legs of the round of 32. PSV Eindhoven fought back to salvage a draw against Lille after they were trailing by 2 goals. Porto beat Sevilla away in Spain 2-1. No goals between Sparta Prague and Liverpool, and Young Boys defeated Zenit 2-1. In the early kickoffs, Twente, Bayer Leverkusen, Ajax and Dynamo Kiev had big away wins. The match between Napoli and Villarreal ended in a goalless draw. The former owners of Liverpool, Tom Hicks and George Gillette, have failed to overturn a London High Court order preventing them pursuing damages through US courts. On Thursday, they were given the green light to sue over the sale of the club, but they were told any court case involving the English Premier League side should take place in the UK, not in the US. The American pair called October's sale to New England Sports Ventures an epic swindle. They're looking for up to $1.6 billion in damages. The Cricket World Cup's got underway with an opening ceremony in the Bangladesh capital, Dhaka. The action begins on Saturday as the Bangladeshis host India. And as Andy Richardson reports, it's the first ever chance for Bangladesh to host a major sporting event.
14 rival captains together in the same place at the same time. Quite an achievement for a World Cup that will see teams crisscrossing 3 countries. With matches in Bangladesh, India and Sri Lanka, the logistical challenge here looks to be on a par with the sporting one.
Playing at home is great. The subcontinent has a lot of passion for the games, and Sri Lanka especially so. So to play in front of our home crowds on our home grounds for most of the games will be quite important to us.
Bangladesh is sharing hosting duties for the first time. This its biggest sporting event since independence in 1971.
It is possible.
The man who scored the first ever Test century for Bangladesh sees this as a key moment in his country's history.
Their only happiness is cricket. And that's when cricket success comes, they hold it. So they think that this is the only way they can celebrate, because compared to the other sports like football and others, we are far, far away.
Dhakar's newly renovated Shira Bangla Stadium is being readied ahead of what's sure to be an emotional opening game against India. It's the first of no less than 49 matches.
The Cricket World Cup has evolved into something that's unrecognisable from its first edition back in 1975. On that occasion, 8 teams stayed in the same English hotel for an event that lasted just a couple of weeks. Well, this competition sprawls across 3 countries and across 3 calendar months. Maintaining public interest for the duration, well, that will be quite a challenge.
I hereby declare the ICC Cricket World Cup open.
Right now, though, containing excitement is the only issue in Bangladesh. Their opening ceremony arrived a full 2 days before the first ball was to be bowled. Saturday just can't come soon enough. Andy Richardson, AlJazeera, Dhaka.
The Melbourne Rebels rugby team are ready to make their debut in the Southern Hemisphere's annual Super 15 Championship. The Rebels will become the 5th Australian side to compete in the tournament when they take on the New South Wales Waratahs on Friday. Rugby union's a fairly new concept.